Hello. Good afternoon, Dr. L. Teddy. How are you, sir?
I am great. How are you, ma'am?
I'm here. I am here. Yesterday was the last day of school, so I'm out for the summer. So you know how that feels.
Oh
You,
yes. Oh
you know the
yes.
feeling. You know the feeling.
Ooh, ain't nothing like it, honey.
Okay, listen. And my dumb butt forgot to turn the alarm clock off last night, child. So you know
Mm,
how that goes.
that's that good feeling.
Right. So, how's everything going with you other than that?
I'm good. I can't complain. If I did, nobody would listen. So just not complaining.
Anyway. So we are here, you guys. We are back with another Teacher Project 2.0. We are here to talk about all things as it relates to education. As always, the links to the articles we will be discussing is in the description box. So if you want to follow along and see what we're talking about, or go back later and read up on it, you are more than welcome to do that. So we're going to start this episode off. We're going to start off speaking on um, Title IX. And if you guys are not familiar with Title IX is it was passed in the 1960s or 70s. Don't quote me on that one. But it does protect um, equal education for all students. Now, when it was first enacted, its main focus was making sure that education would be equal for men and women. If you had a boys basketball team, you had to have a girls basketball team, and so forth and so on. That's a simplified example, but what we saw as we have evolved and as we have moved forward and other students have needed protection, we have seen Title IX expand to include other students as well, including the LGBTQ population. Well, under Trump, a lot of those protections were rolled back or were just denied altogether. And so, one thing that the Department of Education has done, Education Secretary Miguel Cardona um, issued guidance that Title IX prohibits discrimination based on sexual orientation or gender identity, a reversal of the Trump administration stance that gay and transgender students are not protected by the law. This is from CNNpolitics.com, so just so you know where I'm reading from. The department cited in its decision the Supreme Court's ruling just a year ago that federal civil rights laws protect transgender, gay, and lesbian workers. A ruling the Biden administration has used during its early months to extend anti-discrimination protections to the LGBTQIA community in a number of different areas. So the article goes on to speak on how that will affect and that will be put into place in public education, because again, when it says public workers or federal workers, remember public education, that's like an umbrella that a lot of times public education falls under because they get federal funds. So let me read this last little part and then we can talk about it. LGBTQ advocates applaud the Biden administration's updated Title IX guidance, with the National Center for Transgender Equality calling Wednesday a huge day for trans youth and the people who love them. Across the country, politicians have targeted transgender youth for discrimination at school. Now, those same kids know that the Biden administration and the U.S. Department of Education see them for who they really are and will defend their right to fully participate in school. The Trevor Project has also issued a statement. We know that trans affirming schools can be life-saving. The Trevor Project said in a statement, young people spend most of their time at school, and it's critical that all students are protected from discrimination and afforded the same rights. So, how do we feel about this, Dr. L. Teddy?
I'm glad that they said something. I know we had been saying. I know. I don't think it was last time we were here, but I know we've done that this year. We've talked about with some of the laws that are sweeping the country with regard to um, trans students, um, that they did something needed to be said. Something had to be said about it. And so I am very happy and glad about it in that regard. My problem, though, is this is going to become a battle within the courts because simply by the Department of Education saying that um, people who want to push back are going to say, "But you aren't a judicial, you aren't somebody who is whose job it is to dissect the law." Those are people in the courts who wear gowns, and unfortunately, Mitch McConnell and not to go straight political, but Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump lined the courts and the judiciary system with people who would basically do their bidding, with people who was against anything that looked to be even moderately progressive or liberal, much less anything that the progressive or liberal agenda would really want to go after. So I'm so glad that they said something about it. So out that, but it's bittersweet because I know what's coming down the pipe. There's going to start to be litigation on this, and when it hits certain levels, once you get to certain levels of the federal courts, all of those seats have been lined, and I already know how this going to end. God forbid it goes to the Supreme Court. You already know that the Supreme Court is, you know what, 6-3 at this point. So yeah, I don't know. I don't. What are your thoughts? I'm afraid because you know the other side right now is just doing everything they can to push back on anything.
So I try not to have as much of a doomsday view
I know.
as you do. And it's not, and here's the reality. It's not that I don't think that this is a possibility of what you're saying. Is that I try not to have that view of it. The reality of the situation is this, and this is how I feel about it. I feel like a lot of people need to understand. I'm about to go left with this one, but I feel like a lot of people need to understand that this is what the last 4 years has created. So what I mean by that is Biden and his administration are literally spending time redoing something that was undone that should have never been touched. Like there was no need to even, like, you know what I'm saying? And so now we had hearings on this. Cardona had to go testify, before the Senate about this. That is time that was wasted. That is time that was spent. And I feel like that's like when we start criticizing, and I'm not talking about all the criticism. And I'm not saying that Biden is above criticism. But what I'm saying is I think we, and when I say we, I'm not talking about me and you, I'm just saying in general, we have to understand that so much went on that people weren't paying attention to because they were watching the clown show that was on, the 7 o'clock news every night, and they were paying attention to the headlines. I don't even think unless you were plugged into education, a lot of people probably didn't even realize that this was even an issue or this was something that had been undone. We see it now again, like you said, going along with the same thing with critical race theory. We see states passing individual laws as it relates to putting restrictions on LGBTQ students and trans students who want to participate in sports. And you know what I'm saying? And so now it's like, yeah, what you said is a possibility that this could go to the court and get shut down. But pay attention, not you, but I'm saying in general, pay attention to the fact that individual states are passing their own laws anyway.
Mm-hmm. I just talked. I don't know if that was here or if that was on my channel.
You did that on your the politics of it all, I believe. Or right. City Saturday, one of yours, yeah.
And I talked about the census and how Florida on the first day of Pride Month, that law about trans. The fact of the matter still remains: there was zero complaints or zero issues with trans students participating in any sport. And there were only 2 incidents of it ever happening in the history of Florida. And in those 2 incidents, nobody complained, nothing was said, there were no problems at all. This is a made up and concocted issue. And you know how they will harp on certain things and pick up that thing. Even when we talk about critical race theory, let's be clear. The actual meat and potatoes of critical race theory isn't taught in K through 12. It's not even taught in colleges. It is taught in advanced, like second or third year in law school, where that's an actual course, and that is a practice. That's part of when you go and go to law school. You learn that, and you learn some of the things that race plays into. When you are all of that stuff that it. So I'm gonna tell you what happened. Like all things with this, somebody hears it, they hear half parts of the conversation, and now they think that the world is burning down. They pick it up and they spew it to all of their other little friends. That they're gonna go on Fox News or all of the other media outlets spewing the same half truths and the same misguided, misdirected anger at something that is not a problem.
Creating a problem where there was one, where there was none.
And more than just creating a problem, they're trying to scare people. That's really what they're trying to silence and scare people and say, before y'all even think about coming around here, just know we already passed the law. Nope, y'all can't have it.
Yeah. So again, as with everything that we talk about here, we don't make that face. We implore you to pay attention to what is being done around you as it relates to legislation that's being passed, what your politicians are doing, because again, this is becoming a war on the state level. And not to get on my soapbox, but this is why local elections are important, because now a lot of these things, the critical race theory, the LGBTQ protections, like a lot of what we've talked about is now being fought on the state level. And just like when we talked about when schools shutting down and with everything as it relates to COVID, it's okay, Quintessential. Thank you for being here, babes. Just like with everything else, when we talked about COVID and what schools were closing, the reason why El Teddy had to take that big old gulp of water at the beginning of every episode is because as he went state by state by state by state, a lot of what happens in schools is a state fought policy. The Department of Education is there, but they are limited in what they can do on a state by state, county by county. We talked about that. Even in some cases, it's county by county. What one county is doing, the other county is not. We're seeing it, a perfect example of what's going on with the schools reopening after COVID. Literally, you have counties right next to each other, and one county says, hey, we're going to have full instruction. Another county says, well, we're going to still let the kids stay home. Another county says, well, we're going to do a hybrid. We'll let the parents decide. So it's the same thing with a lot of these policies. So you guys have got to be paying attention to what's going on in your county, your state, your city. I feel like I was on my soapbox, but I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. You know me. I go off on tantrums, so I'm perfectly okay with you doing that. But I just feel like this is another instance where it's going to be this whole notion of this battle they're having against the rights of trans students is going to become another political talking point. It's going to be another issue that they have to galvanize bigoted and racist people around this country to put more of them in office.
Yeah. Listen, what we're looking at, when we're looking at I don't want to say remnants, because remnants implies that it's not a lot, it's just what's left over. So that's not even what I want to say. But what we are looking at the result. That's a better one. The result of the Trump years. And we're paying for it. We're paying for it. So
and the thing about it is, I don't know that there hasn't been permanent damage caused to our society as a whole, because as you can see, the conservative movement is hardening when it comes to their stance on all things Donald Trump, all things ultra conservative, all things that push us back 100 years from where our society is today. And so that's what's scary is it'd be one thing if you said, okay, that was one, crazy lunatic. We got the crazy lunatic out. And now we don't have, we can just, go back to normal. There is no more normal. I mean, I'm sorry, that is the normal, I should say now. That is the normal now. And so it is the fight's going to continue for quite some time. And this is where voting is probably one of the most important things that we have right now. And that's why there's such an assault on it. That's why the other side is pushing so hard, because they know voting is going to permeate into every aspect of your life, to include education. And then that's
Miss Queenie. Miss Queenie said, and El Teddy, I think you talked about this on one of your shows on your channel as well. North Carolina Lieutenant Governor, who is Black, is trying to get rid of critical race theory from the curriculum. This fool called Rush Limbaugh a patriot.
Oh, no. Boo, he's already signed that. They've already signed that in North Carolina. Oh, they were here for it. Mm-hmm.
Well, since we've already dipped our pinky toe into critical race theory, let's go on and get into.
Let's go get into it. Y'all might as well get mad now. Hey, critical race theory, and we won't stop.
We're not going to stop. Won't stop. Can't stop. Bad boy. Come on.
Okay.
Now, this is actually a good one. So it's still dealing with critical race theory, but it's giving us a little bit of positive hope. This is from theroot.com. Again, I will read an excerpt, but the whole link to the article is in the description box. Teachers in more than 20 cities gathered to let the GOP lawmakers know that they ain't down with attempts to, that's just what it say, with attempts to dictate what they can and can't teach in class. According to the Washington Post, Saturday was the National Day of Action. The event aimed to raise awareness of Republican legislation that would restrict teachers from discussing certain topics in regards to racism, sexism, and oppression. Republican lawmakers in states like Florida, Iowa have worked tirelessly to enact laws that will prevent public schools from adopting. We've talked about that. I'm not going to reread everything because all you got to do is go back to our old episodes, honey. We've been talking about this for about 2 months now, so maybe even longer. So y'all can go back and we talk about the different states and the different things. But let me read a little bit more of this. As the Post reported, teachers have said that it's impossible to talk about American history honestly without discussing race. Even if teachers aren't necessarily discussing critical race theory itself, they still find it important to address systematic barriers that have harmed students of color. Racism wasn't just something that recently was made up to make white people feel bad. It remains woven into the fabric of our society to this day, and it won't stop just because you don't want to talk about it. That's not how it works. I'm going to leave it right there. I think that's a great way to end that. Again, the whole article is on theroot.com. It is from Saturday's post. It was posted on Sunday, but again, the link is in the description box. As a social studies teacher and someone who's been teaching American history for the majority of my teaching career, I've taught other classes, but the majority of my career has been U.S. history. I'm going to just ditto that last statement that was made. If you are going to take the discussion of race out of American history, you might as well just not teach it anymore. There's just no way. There's no way. And the reality of the situation is you can take white out. I mean, you can take black out of it. What about the Native Americans? What about the Latinos? What about Asian Americans and how they were treated out west with the building of the railroad? What about, we know women. We won't talk about women, but I mean, I guess they won't think about race when they talk about women. The LGBTQ community that has now been added to a lot of curriculums. I know in my county that has been added to our curriculum. This was the first year that I taught about Stonewall, and we got into the LGBTQ.
My pride video, I got some good names for you to add.
Okay, I will definitely do that. Right. And so if you take and even let's even take it a step further, you guys. We can even go a step further. If you even look at how white America has been racist within its own umbrella. When you look at the Italian Americans and how they were treated, the Irish Americans during the Great Irish Potato Famine, and when they came over here, how they were treated. So if we take race and racism and sexism and oppression out of the study of history, we might as well not teach it. Period. We might as well just bring back home ec, bring back shop classes. Let's add a little basket weaving in there. Absolutely, Miss Queenie. I talked about the Asian Americans with the building of the railroad. I didn't even talk about, the internment camps. Okay. So, I mean, and again, we're going to stop teaching about race because it's hurting somebody's feelings. I'm sorry. My people's feelings have been hurt for the last 200 years. Nobody seemed to give a damn about that.
Wow. Well,
I mean,
is it my turn yet? Is it my turn?
Well, let me get my last out, because I know once I let go, you're gonna let go and let half. But I want to say that I'm glad to see that there seems to be some organization of teachers. I'm gonna have to do my due diligence and link up and find out what. Well, I have reached out to find out what's going on here. Knock on wood. My area isn't one of the areas that has been targeted as of yet. I'll put that caveat, as of yet.
Okay.
I do have a Republican governor over the state where I teach. So as of yet, ... Okay. But I'm glad to see that there seems to be some organization, some organized
y'all put him in there.
Huh?
Y'all put him in there.
Y'all didn't put him nowhere. So I will say that, and I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to see it, and we're gonna have to just keep our eyes on it. Unfortunately, and I really don't want to go left, because I'm gonna stop after this, and I'm gonna let El Teddy speak. I think this is gonna get swept. I think a lot of this is gonna get swept under the rug, because unfortunately, I think we're heading for another red hot summer like we had last summer with a lot of protesting. We have a situation in Minnesota, which El Teddy spoke on the other day on his channel. And if you guys remember, Minnesota sparked it off last summer. And it seems like what's going on in Minnesota is heating up. So with that being said, I yield the floor to Dr. El Teddy.
Now listen.
Nothing good starts with now listen.
Let me first say to my fellow Black people across the fruited plains, okay? We need to go have a sit down with our Native American brethren and sisterin. Making up words now.
Brethren and
sisterin. We need to go and have a conversation with them, because exactly what happened to them is happening to us. Whereas you've never read a history book that has been truth to the American history of the atrocities that happened to the Native Americans. You've never read one, and you will not read one. The only time you hear about what really happened in them, in those, is in some high-level college classes. I ain't gonna even say your traditional U.S. history college class, because even your traditional American history, U.S. history college class, even probably on a 4,000 level college class, is very much so muddied with lies and the whitewashing of the telling of the history of what happened in this country. And not only in this country, up and down the Western Hemisphere. You're never going to read that. And so with that being said, we have to understand as Black people, exactly what happened to them is exactly what they're trying to do for us. Because there's a real possibility some of your grandchildren and even maybe some of your children will be having textbooks that make no mention of slavery at all. And it will seem as if America had no parts in anything called the slave trade. And then you'll have people saying that, oh, that's just some conspiracy theory. Oh, that's just somebody who, it's going to sound so far-fetched. That's this, and I'm saying it like this because if you notice when you read the laws and legislation, they only mention critical race theory maybe once, and some of them don't mention critical race theory in the law because they mention discussions of race and discussions of anti-American and discussions on things that would make a separation between races or cause other races to feel like they were superior or inferior to another race. The problem with that is this. They know critical race theory is not taught in K through 12. Critical race theory, as really be out, and I was talking about even before we came on here, the actual subject matter and topic and course critical race theory is taught in law school when you get to I think it's second or third year of law school. And it's taught to teach you about how race has played a part in some of the laws and things that have to do with the judicial system that lawyers need to be aware of. But now somebody took hold of that, heard about it, and wanted to use that, talking point, or wanted to use that to be, some type of a one of those terms, a triggering term, so that now when you hear it, it sounds like this big, bad, awful thing. And no child in K through 12 has even been taught critical race theory. Instead, what they're doing is they're using that term so they can cut out anything that deals with race or anything that deals with explaining what happened to Black people in America. Anything that deals with talking about what white people did to all races outside of the pure white race. They can talk about Hitler all they want, but let's be clear, a lot of the things that early United States of America was doing wasn't that far off. And when I mean wasn't that far off is they weren't even accepting their own white people, like really be said. You had to be a certain level, caliber of white person. And so be damned if you were a whole nother race or ethnicity. Now you just all fucked up. Excuse my language. But this is not an attack on critical race theory. That's where they want us to get all messed up. This is an attack on saying what really happened to Black people. This is an attack on stating, that's why they say, oh no, we don't want to talk about 1619. Oh, why? Why not? Oh, we want to talk about 1776. Well, you had just slavery. You probably had more slaves in 1776 than you did in 1619. Some of the things that y'all were doing in 1776 were just as bad, in some cases worse, than what you were doing in 1619. So whether or not you wanted to be 1776, 1619, or Texas just did their whole 1836 garbage or whatever, it doesn't matter. You don't want to tell the history. You don't want to say what happened. And you want to protect the little feelings of your little white children. What about the feelings of our Black kids that gets disrespected? What about the fact that my little Black child can't walk down the street without being afraid for their safety? They're afraid for real safety and real dying, but you're concerned because little Karen and little Tom are sitting in class and they don't want to hear about how granddad was a bigot and a racist, because that's going to make our family look bad and that's going to make them feel bad about their family. While I got little Black kids that are made to feel bad every single day of their lives by some of those same white children that you're trying to protect. I'm sorry. Let me stop, because I almost went. I was about to go down the road. Going down
Well,
the
my only thing is, since when? I'm sorry, yeah, that's the ice cream truck outside, child. Yeah, take a deep breath, lubricate, take a deep breath, get you some drink. I don't understand when education became about making somebody feel good. I thought you just taught the facts, and well, I'm not gonna say that because we know that that's the reason why everybody gets an appreciation trophy, because we don't want people to feel bad. We don't want kids to feel bad. We don't want kids to. And here's the reality. Here's the problem. Now I'm about to go left. Here's the reality about life. In life, you're gonna be rejected. Period. In life, you're gonna lose. Period. In life, you're going to find out that you have family members that just aren't fucking nice people. Excuse my language. The same way that we find out that our uncle that went away really in jail because he killed somebody. The same way we find out that Sally, cousin Sally, you know, got another cousin, but it's really her child, and we find out 20 years later. Like, families happen, okay? And so the same way we find out our family dirty little secrets, guess what? We can find out that great great granddaddy owned slaves. Guess what? That's it. That's it. That's all. That's it. That's all. We can find out that the great great granddaddy. I remember reading something one time about a guy who was cleaning out the parents had died, the grandparents had died, what have you, and they were cleaning out the attic and they found their grandfather's Ku Klux Klan outfit. Never had a clue. Dad never had a clue that granddaddy was a part of the Klan, but it was a dirty little secret. It was buried in the attic. And you know what? At the end of the day, it is what it is. It is what it is. I remember one time I was living, this is when I was living out in an area of Maryland called Greenbelt, Maryland. And my next door neighbor, he was an older guy. He was only there during the summer. In the winter, he worked as a ski instructor. So in the winter, he was up in the mountains, living, at the ski resort, whatever. He died. He was an older guy. He was always nice to me. He spoke to me every day. I mean, every time I saw him, he spoke to me. He never had a problem. Nothing. When he died and his family just started throwing his stuff out, and I was like, that is horrible. Why are they just throwing all this stuff away? And it was a bunch of books. And, I love books. So I said, well, let me go over it. And the first book I saw was Mein Kampf, Hitler's autobiography, that had his manifesto in there about killing all the Jews.
Oh, yeah.
Right. But I said, as a historian, I'm not tripping off of that because as a historian, I've read parts of Mein Kampf. That doesn't make me a racist. No problem. But the more I started digging in that box, the more stuff I found. And I said, oh, well, maybe that's why his family is not too concerned about holding on to none of this stuff that they're throwing out. And all I'm saying is, I went left with that. But what I'm saying is, everybody has that family member that they may not talk about a whole lot. Everybody has. So, again, why are we protecting kids from the reality that, guess what? Life just ain't always nice. It's not always perfect. Your family members aren't always great people. Somebody got a serial killer in their family.
This was so interesting. My first year teaching, and we always had they dedicated the fourth market period to talking about the Holocaust or whatever. Not negotiable, had to be done, had to spend the whole market period, whatever. But one time this little black girl said, as if I'm not black, but this little girl, she's not just black, she's Haitian. She said, now I wonder, you got to be real horrible for them to just wipe your last name out, because somebody had to have that last name when he was around, but you'll never hear nobody claiming that last name no more. And I was like, and I thought about it, I was like, yeah, last names don't just die like that. It takes generations.
Yeah, miraculously, there are no more Hitlers around.
You don't hear nobody say,
you don't hear a whole lot of Adolfs either. You don't hear no whole lot of Adolfs.
And that was a very popular German first name. That first name, very popular. German and Poland. But
yeah, because so that's all I'm saying. Like, I blame this on the appreciation trophy. Like, we are now dealing with the generation of young adults who got participation trophies. And the reality of the situation is, guess what? Everybody doesn't win. Everybody doesn't win. When I played basketball, I wasn't good. Let's be clear. I was not good. Okay. I was on the basketball team. We won the championship. The only way I got a trophy is because my team won the championship. I didn't get a trophy when we didn't win nothing. I got a certificate from my coach that said, thanks for coming to practice. Okay. Everybody doesn't win. And I think it gives, and that's why we're dealing with a generation of millennials who don't understand that they can't come to work when they feel like coming to work, that they can't call out just because it's a good party going on, that they, because in their mind, well, it doesn't matter because I can do what I want because there's no consequence for anything because everybody wins, right? I know I'm going way left on this one, but it irritates my soul.
And here I am thinking that I'm going to be the one that goes left.
Well, because the
But
participation trophy irritates my soul. Like, it irks me.
it does, and I mean, to add more insult to injury about this notion of them wipe or them saying we're not, trying to be racist, but we don't think that we should be teaching kids that race, makes anybody superior. No, here's the problem. Now, if we want to go down, there's been several references to the atrocities that happened over in Germany. But I noticed white America has no problems making sure that they teach that history. 'Cause it ain't America. That was Germany. That won't us. That won't us. And they don't, oh no, those bad little Germans were around there. And you make sure that the Jewish people get celebrated because of all of those atrocities, and dare anybody do anything that's even remotely anti-Semitic. And I'm here for it. But I need you to have that same energy across the board. I need you to feel the exact same way that you want every time a Jewish person feels like they have been accosted by something that's anti-Semitic or anything that makes them feel any type of way bothered, that they should speak out on it and that others should speak out on it in the same way. It's the same thing for us black people. Yep, we're going to have 1,000,001 movies about what you did to us back before we were free. Sure are. We're going to have 1,000,001 movies about even now after we were free. We still had so many laws and things enacted to keep us subjugated. Oh, yes. We are not going to let you just cause us to just be silent and go away as if we ain't going to teach it. Oh, no, we're going to teach it. We absolutely are.
And let me tell you something. The question is, are we going to stop teaching about the Holocaust? Because we don't want Germans to feel bad, do we?
Right.
I mean, are we? Anyway, honey, anyway. So we are not going to stop talking about the assault on history. And let's be clear. Hold on. Let me say this. The version of American history that we're teaching now is already already a watered down version. Let's be clear. So you mean you mad about us teaching a watered down version of history to begin with? That you still mad? It's still a watered down version.
We could go all Hotep on y'all. You know what I'm saying? Let's just be clear. We could go straight Hotep and have a whole thing. All we talk about is Mother Africa. We'll get to the United States probably around the last 3 weeks of school. We go spend all this school year talking about the centuries of excellence that was happening over in Mother Africa. How about we do that? And then get over to y'all little bit of history here in America.
Yeah. So anyway, honey, y'all know we can do this all day. But again, if you are not sure what we're talking about when it comes to critical race theory, please go and look at our other shows. We started at the beginning. We broke down the whole thing. The articles are all there that we have referenced. If you are not familiar with it, Google it, see what it's all about, and see how it is being handled in wherever you live. If you live, I can already tell you now, if you live in Florida or Texas or Mississippi or Iowa.
States too, because over there in the Northeast, there's several states.
Oh, no, I'm just naming the people off the top of my head that I know. Oh, I'm not limiting it to what we're talking about. And again, it's trickling down. So, or I should say trickling down, it's spreading. So it started as a blurb on the screen and it is now spreading. It has become a thing now.
When I first started screaming from the rooftops, and I think it was just like 1 or 2 states at that point. And I was screaming from the rooftop like, hey, like a madman. Yeah. And even I think I got a comment or two and somebody said, well, it's really not that big of a deal. And now look where we are.
Exactly.
Because we didn't get on top of it. So I'm glad that, and we even said that here during Teacher Appreciation Month, that teachers were going to have to get involved in this fight against critical race theory. We talked about, y'all see how they be, on this channel. We are the ones who, are at the head of the conversation. We don't, We play catch up. But the most times we are ahead of the conversation. We like to inform y'all of things that are to come. So yeah.
Okay. All right. So that was that. Again, glad to hear that teachers are fighting back, and we need to find out how we can get involved and help them wherever they are organizing. So
I think that might be something we could do next time. Maybe um find out exactly what may be happening this summer, or because we'll do something during the summer as a teacher. We got time, but
absolutely.
maybe bring that information, because it's very empowering when we as teachers go out and do have protests, and parents and students will come and support us in that. So that way we feel like it is, that we do have the support of the community.
Okay. Now, here's sort of I guess we would call this maybe our featured story, I guess. I don't know. We know about 2 years ago, maybe a little bit longer now, with COVID, everything is relative at this point. Thank you, Miss Queenie. I appreciate you, babes. And Miss Queenie, I feel like you're in education. So if you ever want to join the conversation, just email us and we can, get you on here if you ever want to join the conversation. We definitely welcome educators to join us up here. And share what they have, because we don't know everything. We give our perspectives from what our experiences are. But if you're in a different part of the country or you have a different experience, we definitely are open to that. So like I said, about 2 years ago, maybe, El Teddy, give or take, I don't have the year in front of me. We had this huge college admissions scandal. It included some who's who of Hollywood, and everyone was just appalled. How dare people be cheating to get into college? Oh my gosh, never heard of this before. What? People lie? What? People pay people off to lie? Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, was that facetious enough? Anyway, with that being said, there's an article here that says, wait a minute, and this is coming from Slate. Wait a minute. The real college admission scandal isn't on the college level. It's really on the high school level as it relates to private school. Now, I know, and a friend of mine lives in Philadelphia, so I know that she went through this in Philadelphia, but we've heard about in New York and other major cities how damn near from the time you find out you're pregnant, you have to get your name on the right list for the right schools, because the right preschool gets you into the right kindergarten, and the right kindergarten gets you into the right elementary, and the elementary high school. And of course, we're talking thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars, even for the pre-K level. A friend of mine who lives in Philadelphia went through the same thing with her daughter, who is now going into first grade, and she's going to be going to a private, and it's like a private campus. I mean, the school, and she could stay on. I mean, the school goes K through 12, but it's not Sidwell, but it's a friend's school, so it's a Quaker school, and it's a campus. It's like a college campus, and it's the amount is ridiculous that they're paying. And so this article goes on to speak about the inequities start really on that level, because if you don't have the money or the access to get your kids into these schools, and then you also have the whole idea of a legacy, and if your child played a sport at that school, and how much money did you donate to the school above and beyond the tuition, and of course, when we start talking about the pipeline into the Ivy League, that these are those pipelines, and if you are at the right school and you played the right sport, you are guaranteed a slot, which of course takes away from that kid that's fighting. We look at a Harvard, and let's say, I'm just throwing out numbers, y'all. Let's say a Harvard freshman class is going to accept 5,000 kids, but 3,000 of those slots are already taken up by the who's who from the best private schools throughout the United States. That really only opens up about 2,000 slots for the average great 4.9 GPA, AP student from, a public school. So I'm going to read a little bit of this excerpt, and then I'm going to turn it over to El Teddy. Graduating from private high school is a far larger advantage at many top ranked colleges than playing sports or being a legacy or even having a connection to the donor. While 10% of students admitted to Harvard's class of 2018 were recruited through athletics, 12% were legacies, but almost 40% of the class went to a private school. If we really wanted to get rid of the most glaring case of bias at prestigious private universities, we would target private high school students. I'm going to say this last thing. As somebody who went to a private high school, I will say there is an advantage. Point blank, period. A C at my school was the equivalent of an A at the public school. That's how it was seen. And it doesn't necessarily mean that that's true. Now I be quiet and I yield the floor.
This was an interesting article because they started off as if they were going to be talking about affirmative action. And they did start off talking about SSFA, which is Students for Fair Education. SSFA, yeah. Students for Fair Admissions, excuse me. And it talks about how they have a case that's going up to the Supreme Court because in this attempt to eradicate affirmative action, remember it lost, I don't know how many years ago, there was that big case that lost at the Supreme Court because she said that because she was white, there was she failed. She was discriminated against because she was white, and she didn't get in for that reason. And they, of course, they have enough evidence for their case, and they lost. So what that organization, because they've been trying to get rid of affirmative action, what they did was they went to who? The Asian Americans, and they said, "Oh, because remember that's a good minority. That's a good one right there. You know what I'm saying? Anything happen to them, we got a law coming down the pipe right on the way." Anyway, I'm sorry, I almost went left out. I'm bringing it back. I saw you, Ricky. I saw you. Because you knew I was about to go left. Anyway, but what they've done now is they've gotten Asian American students to come on to this and say, oh, some of us Asian American students aren't getting in because they're letting the blacks and the Latinx get in. And so we need to stop all this. Because if we stop all this, we know that it's just going to be us Asians and us white people that we ain't got to worry about all those other people that we don't worry about. And let's be clear, even when we talk about Asian, we talk about East Asian. They ain't trying to go on over there to the west side of Asia. That's where they're not trying to do. That's what they're not trying to do. But that's a whole different story. But they started talking about that, and they started saying that while people are over here taking your attention away from what's really going on by screaming they're trying to get rid of affirmative action, they also got something working in their advantage, even with affirmative action, which is the private schools, and which is the fact that private schools are, let's make no bones about it, very much predominantly white. Very much. I think the number they had in the article said 70% or above of students in private schools are white. And also, I found this one paragraph that I read very interesting, and really, it's the paragraph right after that chart. You see that red and blue chart with the line chart?
Mm-hmm.
There's a paragraph, that long paragraph that starts with defenders. But what it talks about in that paragraph was people were saying that there was the overrepresentation of students from private schools, and they were and what they were saying is that's just not fair. Colleges will push back that there was much more rigorous education going on at those schools, but when they crunched the numbers and they looked at the statistics at Harvard itself, they said historically students from the nation's elite boarding schools, quote, performed worse in the classroom at Harvard than other students over the entire 1924 to 1990 period, but went on to make more money than their peers by taking advantage of their connections they made in groups like Final Clubs, which largely excluded anyone who is not wealthy or white. So what that means is They weren't performing better in school. This rigorous education didn't afford them better grades. They just told us their grades weren't better. Matter of fact, they were worse. But what they could lean on is, oh, my Uncle John was, is president of such and such. Oh, my dad's golfing buddy is the CEO of so and so. Oh, well, I've been wealthy. My last name is so and so. I ain't got to know nothing. Why do you think you always hear of all of these certain people that you look at their kids and they be like, oh, I got into Harvard, or I got into so and so, and you know good and damn well you ain't putting it in there like that academically. We see you roll around here how you ain't putting it down like that academically. Let's just be clear. And so what's happening is the arguments, what they're stacking the deck on both sides. They already are stacking the deck with the private school channel, pushing all of the undeserving, kids in there. And then at the same time, they're trying to take away affirmative action, which gives us just a little bit. We just try to get a little piece of the pie. All we ask is for a slice of the pie instead of the little crumbs that we used to get that used to fall off the spoon or fork that you ate your cake with. And all we have is the little crumb that we trying to pick up off the floor. We said, nah, just give us a slice and we'll be fine with all the slice. We ain't even gonna complain. We ain't gonna say, give us all. We say, just give us our slice and we'll be okay. And they got a problem with us even having the slice. So they want the whole cake, and that's what it's all about. Y'all talking about the scandals that's going on with undeserving students of these celebrities. This thing been going on for centuries now with private schools. Private schools are pushing kids through there who, just because they're at this school, a lot of times they don't even look at the grades. They don't look at the grades.
I mean, I told you at my high school, the equivalent, like a C at my high school, because of, like you said, it was a private school and it was this and it was that. It was that same equivalent. The same thing you see with, a lot, and my school wasn't even one of the more elite ones that are in the DC area. Because of course, we got the Sidwells and you got the Bullis, and you've got, like, there's some elite Georgetown preps. I mean, you got some elite private schools. And again, it is about one thing that the article, and you said this as well, it's also about the access to that upper echelon. You can flunk out of Harvard, but if you were at Harvard for 2 years and you hung around the right people and you rubbed elbows with the right people, you're set for life. Mm-hmm. You're set for life. I have a girlfriend, she's in politics, and right now she's sort of kind of figuring out what it is that she wants to do as far as what she wants to run for. But the private college, she went to a private college. We went to high school together. And basically she has people that have already told her, listen, you let me know and I'm ready to write the check. You let me know and I'll donate the family's helicopter to your campaign so you can get back and forth to your events faster. You know what I mean? Like, we're talking about people that have helipads in their, on the roof of their home. So, but this is because of these are the friendships she made in college. We went to high school together. She had access to that college, and I'm not saying she wasn't a good student or whatever, but I'm just saying it's that access. She wasn't a scholar. She wasn't, she wasn't busting down, AP. She didn't graduate with no 4.3 GPA type of thing. No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
And the thing about it is this too, in the article they talked about, and they look at things like clubs and sports and, all of the other little, Ray and Lasha Quante might have to have an after school job because they got to pay for stuff.
Absolutely.
They don't have time. I can't go to your sport because I got to go pick up my little brother after school because my mama got 2 or 3 jobs just to make ends meet. And I got to be home to get my little brother and little sister and make sure that they're taken care of, because the systems and institutions that y'all have set up in this country are continuing generational poverty amongst Black people and Latinx people. And so I don't win and busted my behind in school. I done maintained, I done did the work, I done took care of kids and everything, but because I couldn't go get in this club because I had to take care of my little brothers and sisters. And I got the grades. I would have even studied extra hard and got a good SAT or ACT score. I'm gonna say SAT because when you start to get to some of them upper schools, they look at you. You took the ACT. You took what? Oh, then people still take the ACT. That's how they look at the ACT. But anyway, not here or there. I don't know why. But not here or there. What I'm saying is, it's just not equitable. And even with the whole Aunt Becky scandal, it's missing the bigger picture, which is these things have been set up, and they hate that word systemic, but there is systemic racism that has been going on. It's been set up so long that even to change the way it looks would make it seem weird. They wouldn't even know what to do. It would seem like, oh, that can't be right. No, that can't be right. I ain't never seen that many black people.
Right.
That's got to be wrong. No.
Well, we know that happens. We know that happens. If there are too many minorities that do well on a test or an exam, oh, they ready to change the whole damn test now.
Yep.
Oh, somebody must have got the answer key, or the test must just not be fair and equitable because, look at these numbers. Now, they don't do that. I mean, I ain't trying to go left here. They don't do that when there's too many Asians that do too well. Now, that ain't no problem. But when there's too many black kids, then it's an issue.
When I was teaching in the hood school, my first couple of years teaching, my third year teaching, I had 12 students out of my whole roster that got perfect scores on the writing exam. Perfect. In the history of the school taking that particular test, they had one. And in all of the black schools in the district, there had been, and then you're talking about 30 plus schools, there'd only been 5 in all of those years from those schools. And so they said they had a whole investigation for the school. They wasn't necessarily investigating me because when you test, you don't test your own kids. You test all around, they had a whole investigation to figure out how did these kids get perfect score. There's no way. And then that once they figured out everything was on the up and up, next year, they got everybody in the district in my room. What in the world is y'all in my room for? And because they just don't believe that we can excel. Mind you, let give me a 30-second history lesson for some of these people, okay? 30-second history lesson says, education started in Mother Africa. Hello, University of Timbuktu, the first university ever started by Mansa Musa. The most iconic and heralded,
the richest man in the world
in education is Timbuktu. And that was black people. That wasn't them. All of the Greek scholars, the Roman scholars, all of them, they couldn't hold anything to what was going on in Timbuktu. They wanted to visit these places. So they try to take everything as if it's theirs, as if we are not deserving, as if we can't cut the mustard, but it's they're the ones who can't cut the mustard. And if anything, they've set the system up to make it easier for them, not for us, because we've proven that we can endure it through anything. We've proven that whatever obstacles you give us, oh, that's what you're giving us? Okay, we're going to handle that too. And that's what they're afraid of. That's what they're afraid of. Because not a lot of black people can afford private schools. Let's be clear. Private schools is expensive. I'm just saying.
It absolutely is. Let me tell you something. Like I said, I went to private school. I know the sacrifice that my parents made for that to happen. But again, I also know that part of the reason why my parents did that is because they understood exactly what we're talking about right now. They understood that there was an advantage of having me in that school, just having that name on my transcript would give me an advantage. They understood that. They knew it and they understood it. And, I mean, I tell you guys all the time, the mayor of Washington, D.C., I know her. Why do I know her? Because we went to high school together. We went to the same high school. That's how I know her.
Huh? She's bougie. because she bougie, y'all. She is bougie.
How does that make me bougie? Because Miss Queenie said, my husband talks about the disparity in music education. I'm sure. Because, of course, the only music we appreciate is hip-hop. So,
Yep,
of
that's
course,
all
we
we
can
know.
appreciate the classics
Of course,
and jazz. And, you know,
started with us. Every form of music started with us, even to include country was
yeah,
stolen from us.
yeah,
Every form of music that there is came from us.
yeah.
But all they think but they always want to, box us into just one. I ain't gonna do this. We already been on here an hour. Dear God.
Yeah, we about, y'all know we love to do an hour, get in and get out.
I didn't think don't we have another
No.
that was all our time. I didn't think
But
we
I
covered
do
all.
want to end with this. Because I don't know if we will do it. We'll be able to do another show this week. Because El Teddy has some travel he has to do this weekend and things of that nature. But I do want to end with this. Let's end on a positive. Well, no, it ain't even on surface. It seems like a positive, but yesterday the U.S. Senate approved a bill to make Juneteenth a national holiday. Now, Juneteenth is this Saturday, so if you do not celebrate or you have not celebrated or you don't even know what the hell I'm talking about, please go and Google Juneteenth and do some research. But it is, we had the Emancipation Proclamation, which a lot of people think freed the slaves. It freed the slaves in the states that had seceded. It pretty much leaned on the goodness of strangers to let their slaves know that they were no longer slaves. Well, Juneteenth signifies, I'm sorry, it's not funny, but Juneteenth signifies the fact that in the state of Texas was the last state to free all of their slaves because, they claim word didn't get to them fast enough. And the slaves were continuing to be enslaved for well over a year after the Civil War had ended. Not just the Emancipation Proclamation, but the end of the whole war. Okay. And Juneteenth signifies it's a celebration of all of the slaves finally being free. So please Google it. But after all these years, it only took 200 and some change for them to decide that it should be a national holiday. So that's why I said it seems like it's a good thing, but there's a part of me that feels like it's just a slap in my face because I'm just like, really?
I mean, it's a national holiday and not a federal, and I think there is a difference. I think federal holidays, there are less of them, and when you have the federal, that's when most places of employment or most places say, okay, we are going to be off. I think I read somewhere that there was a distinction in between it being a national and not a federal. I don't know.
A national holiday are days like Arbor Day is a national holiday. Nobody gets off
Okay,
work.
so I was right in what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of another good example. Flag Day is a national holiday.
Flag Day, that's June 14th, ain't it? Didn't it just pass?
Yeah, I think it's like around now. Yeah. Right. It's a national holiday, but like no one gets off work. A federal holiday is a day that you are off work. And if you do have to work on that day, then your employer has to pay you like time and a half, all that good stuff. But yeah, there is a distinction.
Like your Memorial Days and your Labor Days.
Absolutely. There is a difference. So again, it's sort of a backhanded
I needed that good news after I talked about how North Carolina was about to celebrate Juneteenth before that got canceled. But yeah.
Anyway, with that being said, I want to thank you guys for being here once again. I appreciate everybody who comes through, everybody who shares us, tweets us, shares it on their LinkedIn. I appreciate those of you who come back here and say nice things about us. I told you my goal for this summer, one of my focuses this summer is to really put in the work and to try to get our numbers up and things of that nature. And again, not because I'm so pressed about it becoming like this whole sensation, but because I think we just really provide some really, really good information. And I want us to get it to more people in the masses. So thank you guys for being here. Tell a friend to tell a kin to join us here. And with that, I'm going to yield the floor to Dr. El Teddy.
Please always feel free to email us different ideas or different things. We say that all of the time, but we are more than happy to do that. If you know of teachers that are friends of yours or in your family that you would like for us to link with, maybe have them come on and talk about a certain thing, please feel free to let us know, because we're here for it. We definitely have an open ear to any and all subject matters and topics. We just like talking about this kind of stuff. Y'all see we get excited and stuff like that.
And if you ever want a glimpse into a conversation between El Teddy and myself when we're not being silly and talking about silly stuff, when we get down and dirty, we talk about education because we're both passionate about it. We talk about politics. So this is a glimpse into what we do when we're by ourselves. Like, really.
Mm-hmm. We're nerds. We're just nerds.
We really are. And it's okay. I accept my nerddom.
Mm-hmm.
Did I just make up a word? Nerddom. Did I make up a word?
Mm-hmm.
I accept my nerddom.
It's okay.
Okay. As long as it's okay with you, it's okay with me. With that being said, you guys, we're getting ready to get out of here. I really appreciate you. Please, if you are not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you are not subscribed to my channel or El Teddy 27's channel, go ahead and head on over there. If you enjoy this type of conversation, you definitely want to tune into the politics of it all over on El Teddy's channel. We talk a little politics over on my channel too, honey. So definitely check us out on all of our platforms. And again, feel free to email us with any show ideas or topics you want us to discuss and or research. With that being said, we are out of here. Peace.